Hi there, Rick. How are you?
Hi, Carl. How's it going?
Excellent. Welcome to Carl and Rick Talk Risk. Rick, I misspoke last time. This is officially number 20. So congrats to us getting here.
Woohoo.
Um, uh, we, I'll kick us off this week. I'm a bit of a politics junkie. I can't help it. Um, there's always something going on, and this year is a big one. It's elections everywhere. Um, so there's over 50 elections happening this year. It's over 2 billion. I think it's actually much higher than that now because snap elections have been called in the UK and France. And so it's a big year. It's a big year in terms of changing out governments and moving things forward and all kinds of stuff. And I think sometimes a lot of people, including me, get engrossed in what does this election mean? Who's going to get in? How's that going to change things? And I started to think the other day, how would a risk manager come at this? Risk managers, we're not front office. We're not in the day to day. We're not making trade decisions. We get to step back a little bit. It's what I like about risk management. You can kind of step back and take in a bit more of the view and kind of see what's going on in the background, that these events are taking place in. And I had some thoughts on this, and I'm hoping you can just jump in and call me on my crap if I say something you don't agree with or question or whatever. So, okay, let me get started. So, one of them, as a risk manager looking at all these elections going on, would
First off, I'm
hopefully,
going to stop you right there.
okay,
Thinking that a risk manager does not do trading. I think most traders would say that they're excellent risk managers, but go on.
that's true. Yep. Um, so one of them is keeping biases in mind. That's something we try to do as risk managers, and we can you can easily apply it to elections. I mean, I'll name two biases I think happen a lot in elections, and they're probably happening this year. Anti-incumbency and anti-establishment. And sometimes they overlap, but not always. Anti-incumbency is you want to get the guys in, out, no matter what. They've been in there too long. They're looking tired. The other team needs a chance. We've got to get them out. The other one is anti-establishment. So that is we want the new party in, right? We saw a lot of this at the recent EU Parliament elections. There were new parties started in the last 5 years, which won a whole bunch of seats. And yeah, 5 years ago, nobody knew them. They didn't exist. So it's sort of like get the new guy in, no matter what. Get the establishment out. We don't want their way of doing things anymore. So it kind of, for me, it kind of turned down the volume a little bit on all these elections and what they mean when I looked at it through this lens of okay, what's going on? If voters are voting with these biases, then not every election means the end of the world or something catastrophic. It's just it's more focused on the personalities, the parties involved. Um, the second one I had is polling. Everybody looks at the polls when in the lead up to an election because they are taking a slice of the population and asking them, who do you think is going to win? And we all look at those poll numbers and we think, oh, well, there's the winner, right? But, we spoke about this last time with the safety cars in Imola. Just because something's happened again and again and again, and because you have a sample, doesn't mean it's going to come true on election day. Things change all the time. You might not be polling a representative slice of the population. We've seen this happen a lot recently. So, I think the risk management lesson there is know the shortcomings. You read a poll number, it tells you something about what certain people are thinking. How is that data collected? Was it all online? In that case, there's no confidence interval. There's no, yeah, it's not a actual slice of the population, right? It's a slice of people that use the internet and go to the websites where the polling's happening. So know the shortcomings. And then the third one kind of encompasses a lot of things, but what are the broad stable trends, really stepping back from all of this stuff? What is actually going on that voters might be responding to? Rick, one of my pet topics is demographics, and what the long-term decline in birth rates around the world, but especially in the developed world. That's a long-standing, stable trend that's not looking like reversing course anytime soon, and it has impacts on elections. Now, it doesn't mean voters are going to vote based on birth rates. Obviously, that's a background factor, but it can show up in elections in different ways. So know these broader, stable trends that are affecting countries, pulling some closer together, pushing some further apart. And all of this sort of turned down the volume on elections for me and helped me to kind of look at it a bit more objectively, I hope. And I think could do the same for others, but it's sort of a risk management perspective on elections in 2024.
You're talking got me hungry, so I want to talk about a hot dog stand. During the Trump-Clinton election in the U.S., which I think actually is a fascinating case study for a lot of the things that you mentioned. Yeah. Basically, I was in DeKalb, Illinois, on sabbatical, and it was a fascinating time to be there. And so every Friday, I would drive from DeKalb to St. Charles, where one of my favorite establishments that had a very nice atmosphere in which to enjoy fine Dominican products existed. So that was roughly a 40-minute drive. And halfway between DeKalb and St. Charles, at an intersection of two old interstates, which now, are just two-lane farm roads and totally in the middle of cornfields, was a hot dog stand. And I love me a good chili dog. And so I would stop there. And it was interesting. This hot dog stand, I'm highly confident, was built immediately after the Second World War, where these two old two-lane highways were a major intersection. There was vestiges of an old gas station at the opposite corner and a vestige of a corner store at the third corner. The fourth corner was cleared. It was something I don't know what, but it was only the hot dog stand that remained. And even though this was in the middle of nowheres, and the place was tiny, no advertising whatsoever, I would always have trouble finding a place to park amongst the huge farm machines and farm trucks, and a surprising number of luxury vehicles. And I'd go in, not know anyone, kind of sit in the corner and listen to the talk. And there was indeed a very interesting cross-section of America in there. Yes, it smelled like cow dung. And yes, there was some very expensive clothing at the other end of the spectrum in there as well. It was a dingy little place. Again, probably hadn't been cleaned since World War II, when it was first built. But of course, I'm also a newspaper junkie. But the conversation that I heard in the hot dog stand sounded absolutely nothing from what I got from the major newspapers. And then, of course, we had the election. And I could not wait to get to the hot dog stand the day after the election. And here's the thing is very intelligent people with very big words and reams of data, they're a very, very, very tiny number of people. And the so-called unwashed masses who don't have all their fancy degrees from top schools of journalism or top schools of political science, they vote.
Mm-hmm.
And while they might not know the various ins and outs of this or that, collectively there is a wisdom of crowds, which is very different than the wisdom of experts. And of course, if you've studied the work of Tetlock et al., and you know that the more credible and the more professional we rate a forecaster to be, the worse their forecast. So in there, I think, are some lessons for risk management. One is in my experience working on various trading desks, capital market desks, as well as various areas of enterprise risk management. When there's ever been a dispute between the experts and the person who's actually doing the day-to-day grunt work of the function or the risk involved, even though the person doing the grunt work probably didn't have elaborate education or advanced education, even though they didn't have all of the data at the 50,000 foot level, even though they didn't understand the advanced metrics or the precise terminology or even what Directive X927-42 Part 3 said, almost always they were ultimately proven to be correct, while the expert was not.
Very, very true, and I've experienced the same. And I think that dividing line you're talking about runs through us as well. There is a part of us that thinks it knows stuff really well, that that can articulate, what we understand about something, and then there's this part of us that feels a certain way. And the analogy I've seen made about this is the rider on the elephant. That our prefrontal cortex, the executive function, is the rider. It's sitting up there and it's telling the elephant what to do and where to go and pointing here and there. And the elephant has a bit of a mind of its own, but can't really explain it as well. So yeah, that's a very interesting slice of life, and yeah, you're right. We sort of live in our own bubbles a little bit, so it's hard to get that slice anymore.
Just one further quick comment is the very bright people tend to focus on the details and the long term, but it's very hard to appreciate the long term. And I don't care if you have a government that flips overnight, okay? It's going to take a long time to A, implement those strategies, and B, after those strategies are implemented, for those strategies to effectively work their way into people's lives.
Well said, yeah.
What does change immediately is tone. And people pick up on tone. Experts tend to pick up on details. And a lot of times, tone wins.
Yeah, gets everybody pointing the same way. Yeah. Well, there you.
Emergence 101. Anyhow,
Yeah.
I'll throw in my complexity theory stuff.
Yeah.
It is going to be a very interesting year election wise.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and there's it's fun. It's like sport, right? You've got your teams, and it's kind of fun to cheer and get into the whole spirit of things. But be a risk manager, take a step back, look at things a little more dispassionately, and keep some of this in mind. And yeah, you get a slightly different understanding of where things are going. So anyway, good chatting, Rick. And we will be back soon. You're off to the UK, so we will take a 1 week hiatus, and we'll be back after that.
Have fun, everyone. Remember to vote.
Cheers.